They thought they owned everything. Streets, fences, driveways, and 120 shiny new homes, built on land they claimed as theirs. But behind the manicured lawns and fresh paint was a truth no one wanted to face. Every single brick stood on ground that didn't belong to them. It belonged to one man, a black man who had been ignored, dismissed, and underestimated for years. What the Homeowners Association didn't realize was that he had been watching, waiting, and preparing. And when the moment came, he revealed a legal trap that could bring it all crashing down. For years, the land sat quietly on the edge of town, a wide stretch of open fields and trees that had been in his family for generations. To most people, it looked like nothing more than empty space, waiting for someone to claim it. But to him, it was sacred ground, a living piece of history passed down through blood, sweat, and survival. He was a man who had seen the world try to take everything from him, yet he held on, patient, steady, and deeply aware of what that land truly meant. Developers came and went, surveying the area, whispering about big profits and bigger plans. The Homeowners Association arrived next, armed with blueprints and promises of a better community. They spoke about progress and opportunity, but not once did they speak to him. To them, he was invisible, an obstacle they thought could be ignored. And so, brick by brick, home by home, they built over his inheritance. They erected fences across his soil, poured concrete over his roots, and sold pieces of his land to families who never knew the truth. On the surface, it looked like victory for the HOA. Rows of pristine houses, each one a symbol of control. But what they didn't know, what he never revealed, was that every step they took deeper into his land only tightened the snare he had been quietly setting. He wasn't powerless. He wasn't blind. He had a plan. And when the time came, the HOA would learn the hard way that their empire stood on stolen ground. At first, no one noticed. The families who bought those homes moved in with excitement, hanging curtains, planting flowers, and hosting barbecues in their backyards. To them, this was the American dream: quiet streets, fresh paint, and the promise of stability. But beneath their driveways and beneath their lawns, the truth was buried, waiting to rise. The man watched silently. He had seen this pattern before, how people like him were pushed aside, erased from the picture in the name of progress. But he wasn't like the generations before him who had been left powerless. This time, he had the law on his side. He had studied, prepared, and documented every piece of paper that proved the land was his. While the HOA boasted about their success and collected dues from unsuspecting homeowners, he gathered his evidence like a soldier sharpening his weapons. Deeds, maps, historical records, all carefully preserved. He knew that one day, their arrogance would collapse under the weight of truth. But still the injustice cut deep. Each morning, when he passed by the rows of houses, he thought of his ancestors who had worked that soil, who had endured so much to hold on to it. Now, strangers lived where his family had once stood, unaware of the legacy they were walking on. He could have lashed out, could have tried to stop the construction with anger, but he understood that patience was stronger than rage. Then came the breaking point. The HOA sent him a letter, accusing him of being in violation of their rules. They didn't even realize they were sending it to the very man who owned the land beneath their headquarters. To them, he was just another target, someone they believed they could intimidate into silence. He read the letter slowly, a quiet fire burning in his chest. They had overstepped. It wasn't just about stolen land anymore. It was about dignity, about respect, about standing against a system that thought it could erase him with paperwork and power plays. That night, he sat at his table with a stack of documents in front of him. Everything was ready. For years, he had let them build their empire higher and higher. Now he was about to pull out the foundation stone. And when he did, the entire structure, the HOA, the developers, and every arrogant assumption they carried would come crashing down. The trap was set. All it needed now was the right moment. The day finally came. The HOA called a meeting packed with board members, lawyers, and homeowners eager to enforce their community standards. They thought they were in control, until he walked in, calm, collected, carrying nothing but a thick folder of documents. At first, they tried to dismiss him. "Sir, this is for residents only," one of them said, their tone dripping with authority. But he didn't flinch. Instead, he placed the folder on the table and slid out the very deed to the land they were sitting on. The room shifted. The air grew heavy. Every page he revealed told the same story. Survey maps, property lines, legal filings, all signed, sealed, undeniable. For years, they had ignored him, built on his property, and treated him like an outsider. Now, the truth was staring them in the face. Whispers filled the room. Homeowners glanced at each other in confusion and fear. The lawyers flipped through the papers, their confidence draining with every passing second. The HOA president, red-faced and sweating, tried to argue, but the evidence was airtight. Then came the final blow. He revealed the legal trap he had been quietly preparing all along. Not only was the land his, but every single house built without his consent was now in violation of property law. The families who thought they owned their homes, they had been living on stolen land. And the HOA, the very people who mocked and threatened him, were now facing lawsuits worth millions. Silence fell. For years, they had treated him like he was powerless. Now, they saw him for what he truly was, the rightful owner, the man who had outsmarted them all. And in that moment, the power shifted completely. The fallout was immediate. Homeowners who once stood proudly behind the HOA now turned their anger toward it. Families demanded answers. How could they have unsold homes on land that was never legally theirs? Lawsuits piled up. The HOA's leadership crumbled, and the very people who had tried to strip him of dignity now found themselves scrambling to protect their own futures. But for him, this was never just about money. It was about respect, justice, and reclaiming what was rightfully his. For years, he had endured the stares, the dismissive comments, the subtle reminders that people like him weren't supposed to own land in communities like this. Every insult, every attempt to silence him had only fueled his resolve. And now, the truth could no longer be ignored. The case became a symbol, proof that no matter how much power an institution claims to have, it cannot erase history, and it cannot steal what is lawfully yours. His victory wasn't just personal. It was a reminder to countless others who have been overlooked, mistreated, or pushed aside. Sometimes patience, persistence, and preparation are the greatest weapons. The land was restored to him, the HOA dismantled, and the neighborhood forever changed. But more importantly, his story became larger than the community itself. It echoed far beyond those suburban streets, challenging people to look deeper into the systems built on exploitation and inequality. And so the question remains, how many more stories like this are hidden across the country? Stories of injustice waiting to be exposed. Stories of ordinary people who refused to be silenced? Because in the end, his fight wasn't just about land. It was about legacy, about standing tall against those who tried to erase him. And that legacy is one they will never forget. If stories like this make you think about justice, equality, and the battles so many still face, then don't let it stop here. Share your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button to spread the message, and subscribe so you never miss the stories that need to be heard. Together, we can make sure these voices are not forgotten.